Welcome to A2Council Update, a recap of the Ann Arbor City Council meeting on July 21st, 2025. This meeting included comments and discussion about removing a requirement for public hearings around development decisions, repealing the requirement that developers of larger projects host a public meeting for near neighbors, rezoning and approving a site plan for a new development at Scioto Church and Ann Arbor Saline Road, amending a Brownfield plan for Broadway Park, and requesting considerations regarding the comprehensive land use plan. This is the voting chart for the council meeting on July 21st, 2025. There was one split vote on the resolution of considerations for the comprehensive land use plan. All other agenda items were approved or postponed unanimously. This week, council members Erica Briggs, Cynthia Harrison, and John Malik were absent. For Briggs, this was her 11th absence since taking office in 2020. For Harrison, this was her 11th absence since taking office in 2022. This was Malik's first absence since taking office in November 2024. You can find detailed information about this meeting at A2Council.com. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more content like this. The meeting included an update from Maura Thompson, Director of the Downtown Development Authority. She offered an update on plans to expand the Downtown Development District.
Council's first action would be in mid-September when the public hearing and the first reading of the ordinance change would be set. For members of the public, the development plan does have a page on the city's public engagement platform, Engage. All of the materials that have been presented to the DDA board and to this council live on that page.
After introductory remarks, public comments, and staff explanations, council discussed agenda items for about 45 minutes. 37 people signed up in advance to offer public comments. Ahead of the meeting, it was announced that commenters would be allotted 2 minutes rather than the usual 3. Only some commenters were permitted to speak at the beginning of the meeting. This week, the consent agenda included 21 items and expenditures of over $6.6 million. Nothing was pulled for discussion. The consent agenda was approved unanimously. Council considered ordinance changes to remove requirements for public hearings ahead of decisions around development. Proposed amendments eliminate public hearings for multiple categories of site plan, rezoning, and land divisions considered by the City Planning Commission. Amendments would also eliminate public hearings at City Council for site plans, including wetland use permits. At a public hearing, 2 commenters spoke out against the change.
They'll be replaced with public comment. That means reducing the 15-day advance notice to 4 days at most. The UDC is not a complete expression of the public's wishes around development. It falls short, especially in the areas of sustainability and affordable housing. We should demand that every by-right development do better in these areas.
And my experience as a subdivision developer in many communities, when we had to appear before Planning Commission and City Council, we did get good input from the public at comments made at those bodies.
After a brief introduction, the ordinance amendment was approved unanimously. Council then considered more ordinance changes, removing a requirement that developers host public engagement meetings prior to submitting plans to the city. At a public hearing, a commenter spoke out against the change.
What I'm not okay with is exempting by-right projects from holding these meetings. Just because a plan, in staff's judgment, conforms to the UDC does not change the need and the value of public input. Why are we treating discretionary and by-right projects differently in terms of public participation? Both should require a neighborhood meeting, not just discretionary projects.
Council briefly considered it.
Councilmember Redina mentioned the last time we talked about this, that this change will help us avoid being contacted from community members that have attended those meetings before there's even anything in stream.
There are elements of our building and development process that have been sort of built up over time, layers added, that aren't really adding value to the process, and all they're doing is adding time, and time is money.
The ordinance amendment was approved unanimously. Council then considered a rezoning of township islands recently annexed into the city. Vacant lots at Scioto Church Road and Ann Arbor City Road will be rezoned R4E, multifamily with conditions. Developer Robertson Homes is planning a project of 75 townhomes. At a public hearing, commenters spoke.
It would be cool if this included some sort of retail and maybe even denser housing, but something that's much better than nothing.
You have a petition signed by everybody on Audubon Drive. I mean everybody. Most of Merritt Drive. You have a petition that's signed by the only resident to the east side of this parcel. And the Planning Commission's decision is exactly why this council adopted the resolution not long ago imposing or asking for a 35-foot limit.
Council discussed the rezoning for less than 5 minutes.
If nuisance issues arise, like late night noise or lighting, we have ordinances to address those.
The legal height in those neighborhoods, nonetheless, is 30 feet. So that's how we think about it. We think about the conditions in relation to the allowable height in the neighborhoods, not the actual height of structures.
The rezoning was approved unanimously. Council then considered the site plan from Robertson Homes for the same properties. The development is called 75 South Main. At a public hearing, residents offered comments.
I would prefer to see rooftop solar on these units and instead of the decks that are currently being planned.
Somebody could put a pot of 3 of these Robertson Brothers units on one lot and another 3 on the lot next door, and have 6 condos for $500,000 at a peak average of 39 feet in any R1C neighborhood across the whole city.
This is an example of a development that should, under the new comprehensive plan, be by right citywide.
Council discussed it.
In response to community feedback, the site plan provides 2 rows of evergreen trees to screen between the upper left corner of Scioto Church Road and the house next door.
I don't think you mentioned the 8-foot privacy fence is also in there.
The site plan was approved unanimously. Council then considered amendments to a Brownfield plan for Broadway Park, a development north of downtown along the Huron River. The Brownfield plan allows future tax revenue to reimburse the costs of redevelopment. The 13.8-acre site was eligible for such a plan because it was formerly a manufactured gas plant and had significant contamination. First approved in 2019, the Brownfield plan for Broadway Park allowed for over $17 million in reimbursable development costs. This week's amendments will extend the period of tax reimbursement and adjust the distribution of eligible activities by category. Earlier in the evening, public commenters spoke about the plan.
I'm here representing the Ann Arbor chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby. We're wondering whether the developer of Broadway Park is planning to use fossil gas for space and water heating, and if Roxbury is planning on gas, we ask that the council encourage them to shift to all electric.
Roxbury is seeking reimbursement for $838,000 in loan interest. Roxbury cites higher costs and interest rates. Yes, the pandemic and inflation were setbacks for them, but all developers take risks, and taxpayers aren't obligated to mitigate the negative consequences of those risks.
Council discussed the plan with help from city staff and the developer.
This money has already been allocated to this developer, and the agreed to environmental elements to this project have been delivered.
So to answer your question quickly, what those dollars allowed us to do and why we're asking for the shift now is they allowed us to do the things you're seeing in front of you today and allowed us to produce a public space which we will genuinely cut the ribbon on in September of this year and open to the public. This was arguably the most contaminated site inside the city limits of Ann Arbor, and it is since then been remediated to residential standards.
A lot of what we're doing now, a lot of the land balancing we're doing is to actually put in the roads and the sidewalks and the parallel parking and the rest of the required parking, 450 spaces of it, that were needed for this site.
The amended Brownfield plan was approved unanimously. Finally, Council discussed a resolution of recommendations for updates to the Comprehensive Land Use Plan. The resolution would also add $83,000 to a consulting contract for an additional draft plan and more public meetings. An updated comprehensive land use plan is being written by mayoral appointees on the City Planning Commission. This week's resolution offers a long list of suggestions to the Commission regarding zoning districts, lot sizes, maximum number of units, setbacks, and other concerns. Earlier in the meeting, public commenters reacted to the resolution, virtually all in opposition. Some wore matching T-shirts, holding up signs and a shared script. They compared Ann Arbor to much larger cities.
Minneapolis enacted a hard cap of 3 units, and they also required that multi-unit structures fit into exactly the same building envelope as single-unit homes. Portland legalized 4 plexes by right and 6 plexes if half the units were affordable. I'm here to ask you to commit to a vision of residential infill in our city, including in R1 and R2 neighborhoods.
Other commenters shared different concerns.
I fully support increasing the supply of affordable and quality housing in Ann Arbor. However, I see issues that I do not believe have been addressed sufficiently. Is the infrastructure going to be costed after the land use plan is developed? Because frankly, I feel like that is a whole part that's being missed right now.
Most critically, the plan offers no real solutions for housing affordability and ignores how it invites predatory investors to displace vulnerable communities for profit.
Former councilmember Lynn Song appeared and introduced herself this way.
I am not a residential developer, but a homeowner who chose my neighborhood because it met the needs of my then young family.
Song and her husband may not identify as residential developers, but they are venture capitalists who invest in real estate. Doug Song recently hosted a private investor dinner, promoting himself as a billion-dollar founder. The Song's managing director of real estate currently serves on the city's planning commission. Former councilmember Song continued.
Would we benefit from a duplex, triplex, or quad in our neighborhood? I would hope so, but I ask that you build enthusiasm, joy, and positivity for a more equitable and diverse city.
Others commented.
Your resolution suggests that there are neighborhoods where a 3,000 square foot single-family home belongs, but a sixplex with the same building envelope does not. That doesn't make sense.
But in creating this memo, you're introducing years of bitter zoning battles to come. We elected you to fix the artificial housing shortage that is choking the vitality of this city.
I'm not sure how any part of your resolution is enforceable when it comes to zoning changes that will occur when the plan is adopted. Instead of making recommendations to the Planning Commission, demand that the plan incorporates all the portions of the plan that is missing, like infrastructure.
It establishes a pernicious principle by stating that duplexes and triplexes have, quote, widespread opportunity for development, while larger buildings need to, quote, fit existing neighborhood contexts. We're essentially setting up a default where 3-unit limit.
I am here to request the council to consider pausing the plan. The people who want the plan to be paused and don't want to see the continued hyper-development of Ann Arbor that is destroying the unique identity of this place that has been a home to so many people for so long are unhappy about it.
Residential areas where there's high demand for student housing should add more student housing, as that's where it's most desperately needed.
Please reject this resolution.
We really need to, whenever we have the choice, I think, prioritize flexibility in our zoning rules.
Your plan appears designed to give staff, council, and planning commission maximum leeway to do what they want and to let the free market create whatever it wants. Tonight's resolution offers lip service to some of the things you heard from the public since your plan was released, but misleads them rather than accepting what they have told you.
Neighborhood input should have been gathered at the beginning, not shoehorned in at the end. The whole process has been done wrong, and another $84,000 is not going to fix it.
Private equity in the top 1% are buying up real estate rapidly in Ann Arbor and nationwide. I don't want Ann Arbor and near campus and downtown to become a place where you can only rent in a town that's dense with Airbnbs. I live on a street that is already feeling the changes the plan would make citywide. Most of us want growth, but we want to be thoughtful about it.
Young people and young families want to live here. We want to keep these neighborhoods vibrant and alive and growing, but you need to let us. That's why I'm asking the council to reject the resolution and move forward on the comprehensive plan.
One person spoke in support of the resolution.
The revisions made to DC3 before the meeting tonight are another example of how responsive you are being in a trying time.
Council offered mostly pre-written statements for about 30 minutes.
I will be supporting this resolution tonight, which advances what I believe will remain one of the most progressive and thoughtful comprehensive land use plans in the nation.
It provides direction to the Planning Commission in a timely fashion so that some changes can be incorporated with the second round revisions to the draft plan without significant delay.
This resolution reaffirms our shared commitment to legalizing multifamily housing, in all areas of the city.
This resolution sets a citywide baseline for multifamily housing by affirming that duplexes and triplexes should be allowed in every neighborhood.
This resolution lays groundwork to get more people on board. My co-sponsors and I worked hard on this resolution.
Some expressed opposition.
By limiting housing in any way, we create barriers to residency that negatively impact participation in our local politics. People who can't live here can't vote here and are boxed out of decisions that directly impact their finances, their quality of life, and their health.
I'd like to see us invest in public education about where development actually tends to happen, which is rarely in low-density neighborhoods, and how we benefit from welcoming more neighbors. We become more safer. We become a healthier community.
The resolution of recommendations was ultimately separated from the $83,000 amendment to the consulting contract. Council approved the list of recommendations, with only Council members Cornell and Ghazi Edwin in opposition. Council voted unanimously to postpone approval of $83,000 in additional consulting and public meetings for the comprehensive land use plan. At the end of the meeting, more public commenters spoke.
The plan's stated goal of equitable implementation, without also including equitable impact, ignores the market forces that are already being felt in the neighborhoods nearest to campus.
I wish you would have not limited the number of units in housing per parcel and simply allowed as much housing as is safe and the market will bear.
We don't want further resolutions, further kneecapping housing, further kneecapping the comprehensive land use plan.
I am extremely disappointed in the fact that resolution DC3 was proposed and even more disappointed that it has since passed.
But to the people out there who think that this plan is going to provide the kind of gentle density that they can actually afford, I'm sorry, you've been misled. This plan will not provide the type of housing that you'd like at a level affordable to you. You've been duped. We are going to have a new comprehensive plan. It needs to be one that's effective. It needs to be one that works for you. We need to make changes in this plan to make direct solutions, not indirect trickle-down type of supply-side solutions.
Council, your meddling and micromanaging is harming this comprehensive plan.
Some people told me the reason we have an amendment is because council wants to compromise just enough so they can get reelected. I hope that's not the reason, but we need to start working together because what I saw tonight was an even more divided community, and it's extremely troubling.
The meeting adjourned before 10 p.m. For more information about this meeting, visit A2Council.com. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this.
Welcome to this week's A2Council Moment of Zen.
I believe that the draft plan envisioned by the resolution will provide for increased multifamily supply and, again, decisively, without exception, throughout the community, and will do so in a way that better reflects the aggregate acceptable discomfort and thus, crucially, be better implemented in the long term.